So there are two sides of the T&D world. Historically, we have operated in one. We will be expanding into both over time. Historically, where we have found the traction is in, I think we have a 25-year project, a 8-year project, a 15-year project, and a 35-year project. So I'm calling that the big TNDs, and those take decades. I mean, one of those takes 3 decades. And so those are in a little bit of a greenfield area, and things are going to come around it. Now, my 7 to 8 year, 6 to 8 year project in Nolensville, I'm the heartbeat, I'm the square, right? So everything around me, some of it's built, some of it will be built. But my job there in that role is to create the identity of the area, and then everybody to kind of adopt that and use what we're creating, what we're developing to be that heartbeat. So we actually sized our square in the Nolensville Town Square project to be proportionally recognizable for any county seat. So the square, we actually measured courthouses.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Authority Architects. Today, we have David Horwath, President of Land Innovations, on the program. Someone that actually has relevance to the world of architect, even though that's not even what our title of the podcast has anything to do with. But David, thanks so much for joining today.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Michael, for having me. Looking forward to it.
So let's just start with a little bit of a background on your organization, David, and then I'd love to follow that up by hearing a little bit about your personal background and how you got to what you're doing now. But for those who don't know, what is Land Innovations? What do y'all do? Just give us a little bit of the backstory there.
Yeah, so we are a 15-year-old company. For the first 8 years, we didn't even have a full-time employee. It was a mixture of individuals that had full-time responsibilities and jobs elsewhere, but really felt like the residential development world had become stagnant. And so that's the spark. That's why we head off and do something different. I was actually the first full-time hire over 8 years ago. And we had a project called Stevens Valley. And the mission of that project was, how do you create a town? It was a simple question. We did not really have a great understanding of the journey that would lead us on. But it's been amazing. The Stevens Valley project at the terminus of the Natchez Trace, most people know it as, where the Loveless Cafe is located, started this. We partnered with an amazing development partner, Rochford Realty and Construction. And fast forward now to 2025, we are doing 4 TNDs, fancy acronym for traditional neighborhood development. That is all of which are trying to develop places that look at the past before the invention of the car and what connected individuals. And so all the T&Ds that we're working on, 3 of which are with our partner, 1 of which is by ourselves in Decatur, are solely focused on traditional neighborhood development, which means, in our definition, that you can have parents on one side of the street and their kids and their grandkids on the other side of the street. We've lost that ability. We segment a lot of our products. This developer focuses in this range, this developer and builder focus in this range, and so on and so forth. And so we've said, what if a family could live on the same street again? What if people that want to live amongst others and enjoy open spaces that are thoughtfully curated could have those options? And the feedback and the excitement around what we're doing, we could not be happier and excited about. We're now 8 people that work at the company, and we're continuing to grow beyond that. So that's a little bit about where we started and where we've ended up.
My friends, the Durans, who made the introduction, they live in Stevens Valley, and it's been really wild to see when they first moved in, and then like what's started to kind of build up since then in the span of, just a couple of years.
And we just started our town center there. So we have a mixed use. And that's what we're trying to bring to all of these places. Think about when you travel to Europe. or you travel somewhere that's been established for millennia, you can literally leave where you're staying and walk to dinners or some of our bigger towns that were getting started before the car. So at Stevens Valley, our mutual friends will literally walk down a hill and have a coffee shop, a bakery, an ice cream shop, dinner locations, shopping locations, maybe eye or dental needs being taken care of. And so how do you create these mixed use town centers again that people can choose to walk, bike, get in a golf cart if they wanted to, provide more options than I've got to get in a car and I've got to travel. There's statistics that say that people come and go from a single family residential house in a vehicle over 8 times a day. That's insane.
Holy smokes.
I have a question for you, David, which is, are you familiar with Toll Brothers developers?
Yeah,
So, like,
they've
how?
actually moved into the market here recently in the military state.
Okay. So, how do you differentiate yourself from someone like Toll Brothers?
Toll Brothers is a behemoth. They are an incredible company. Jordan, their local president, is someone that I really enjoy getting together with. The difference, I would say, in product offerings from not just Toll Brothers, but from most developers, is TNDs being placed in the middle of the suburban sprawl can bring a sense of community, identity, and connectivity that didn't otherwise exist. I'll give you an example. Nolensville is our a town square project, Nolensville Town Square. In that project, the entire city has developed over time in strip centers on the main corridor and then the residential behind it. They've never had a community gathering place where everybody comes together and has a Christmas tree lighting or a parade. Their Buttercup Festival is on a state highway, Nolensville Road. And people aren't wanting to slow down on a state highway. And so what we do is we come in and say, how do you integrate not only these mixed use centers to be the core, the part of what you're developing, but furthermore, more importantly, how do existing developments connect? And then the third tier is when we're developing the product, how do you create and have literally a single family house, a duplex, single family houses, townhomes, a manor house that has 4 units but looks like one house? How do you create that vibe? If you go to any historic city that is well over 150 years old in America, this is common to have mixed family housing product types on the same street. That is how we developed for a very long time, not just before the car, but all around the world. It wasn't common to say only single family of this product bracket, you can be here. And oh, you're a multifamily, you can only be here. And all my commercial has to be over here. And all my whatever has to be there. We didn't develop, I mean, I'm sure your grandparents at least can remember a time where they had their single family house and they walked to a school.
Well, it's funny because David, you're talking to Michael here, who grew up on Spruce Street in Old City, Philadelphia, which
Okay.
Michael lived in. It was the James and Dolly Madison house, right, Michael?
Yeah.
So
Okay.
President Madison. It was before his presidency or after.
Yeah.
I think it was before, but yeah, it was a very historic home, most historic area of Philadelphia.
Yeah.
So,
I did not know that. That's amazing. What is experience? So what you experienced is what we're trying to create for future generation. Instead of all of this sprawl where I've got to get in a car to do anything and everything. Maybe we're never going to solve the entire problem. I think that's a goal that you can never achieve. We got cars, people love them. That's fine. How can we though create a place where life can happen, where not everything has to be in a car?
I really like that. So, David, how do you guys market this? Because like it's such an attractive thing, right? But it's like, how do people know about a town? Like, and like you have to have people living there to make it desirable to live in to begin with.
We believe that it first and foremost starts with two critical partners in the pursuit of developing these places. The first is with the landowner. If you have a landowner that is not that wants a paycheck, we're not the right fit. We will bring money to the table for the landowners and a lot of it, but it's going to stretch over time and not up front and over leverage the product. So that's one. The family that owns the land has to care about legacy. Number one. Number two, I've got to be in a municipality that's going to think differently than their zoning allows. Would you believe, Michael, that in almost every jurisdiction in America now zones out the environment you grew up in? They don't allow it. Do you know that in Alexandria, right there across from DC, our capital of the country, an amazing town, that we don't develop that? You don't allow ADUs all the time. Or, I mean, in one block, you would have the politician and business owner, a school teacher renting something, a blue collar worker. It would all be in a block. Like that was normal. We didn't segment ourselves. And so the second thing is we got to have a jurisdiction that allows us to do something that has been perceived for a while now, only 50 years, 70 years max. That's when the first subdivision came about, that it's not illegal. We should be doing this. So you get the landowner, you get the jurisdiction, and then you go about setting up the parameters of how this North Star will direct every decision on this project. Now you got a project, now you have a direction, now you have a heartbeat. So once we get going in the ground, then we are screaming from the rooftops to get people to come and see it. And what the amazing thing for us is, when they come and they enter, they know that this is not like the other places they've been. They know that this is fundamentally different, the way it feels. Can they tell us why it feels that way? Oftentimes not. But they know when they drive in, the care and the thought, and they want to be a part of that. And they choose to come to and be a part of our developments versus all these others, because it's bringing us back to something. I mean, if you ask people where they want to go, name a suburban sprawl neighborhood that they want to go take their family vacation. But hey, I'll buy you a ticket to go to Europe. Any town, big or small, and people would clamor over that. Yes, I want to be a part of that. You mean I get to stay in a hotel or an Airbnb of somebody's house that's older than America, and I can go walk and get all my amenities and just enjoy life? Sign us up. What if we could create places that live like that? And we have some places for resorts and vacations here: Seaside, Rosemary Beach, Serenbe, all these, Alice Beach. There's tons of places across America where people go. A question we're asking is, can we bring that to suburbia and plant these projects in and actually take subdivisions that now have the ability to walk to amenities?
That's so interesting. So, our Philadelphia area office is in a jurisdiction. It's called a township, Lower Merion Township.
Yes, I know of that.
It's a high school. That's a lot of people know it because of that. But like when you're doing zoning, and I've dealt with the zoning commission before in Lower Merion Township, they don't let you do like a lot of things, even on the property that you own. So, and a lot of that's because they're trying to keep the property values high. It's very high cost of living area. Do you find that typically when you're developing these properties, it might be in a certain cost of living area or in a more remote area that has less zoning ordinances?
So there are two sides of the T&D world. Historically, we have operated in one. We will be expanding into both over time. Historically, where we have found the traction is in, I think we have a 25-year project, a 8-year project, a 15-year project, and a 35-year project. So I'm calling that the big TNDs, and those take decades, right? And so, I mean, one of those takes 3 decades. And so those are in a little bit of a greenfield area, and things are going to come around it. Now, my 7 to 8 year, 6 to 8 year project in Nolensville, I only have I'm the heartbeat, I'm the square, right? So everything around me, some of it's built, some of it will be built, but my job there in that role is to create the identity of the area, and then everybody to kind of adopt that and use what we're creating, what we're developing to be that heartbeat. So we actually sized our square in the Nolensville Town Square project to be proportionally recognizable for any county seat. So the square, we actually measured courthouses. What is a courthouse square? Because then that gave us the parameters to then offset to the building frontages. So while we don't have a courthouse, when you drive in, it's going to have that historic Southern square feel, because all the measurements are, you would not believe how many places we measured to get the exact proportions right. And then, so that's a different, but that's leading towards this other model we're looking at, which is called incremental development. And there are people that are doing this all over America, but that's where you look at these smaller projects, 2 acres to 25 acres, really close to these historic areas, these town centers and or downtowns. And then you create a product that makes sense to your surroundings. I think sometimes what hurts us is I can bring a product offering to an area, but I don't match the context. And so there should never be this one size fits all. As you just heard with Nolensville, I measured county seat after county seat after county seat, our team did, to make sure that everything was proportionally right so the feeling would be right. No one's going to know we did that. That's fine. But they're going to feel it when they come in, because it's going to feel like some small town they've been to. And so the incremental is the same philosophy. I've got to look at my surroundings. How will I create a product that reads with the street scene, but provides more housing? And there's some fascinating studies being done by Strong Towns, by members of the NTBA. We're going to Amelia Island, and they've done a lot of research in the fall roundtable to discuss and understand the things we intuitively know. We know we're happier when we have the connection with other people. And if you look at town builders, right, everybody says it's all about the architecture. That matters. Town builders, though, are really the architects of creating the connection of people. Because guess what? In 100 years, the car is not going to be the main mode of transportation. I don't know what it is, but when Rome was built, when Venice was built, was car the number one priority of people's life? They didn't even know what a car was. Do you know I still love to go there and be there and experience it? Philadelphia. The car wasn't invented when Philadelphia's framework was being established and laid out. But I love being there. Why? Why do some cities go to ghost towns and others don't? Besides being in a one-hit wonder industrial complex, right? But if you don't connect people, towns die. Why does Savannah lasted as long as it did? What did it do so well? It prioritized the connection of people. And if we connect people, it doesn't matter the modes of transportation we use, people will still seek us out. And I believe that's the root of a town builder. We create the canvases, and then people paint their lives and their story, and it unfolds and it changes. But the framework is good bones, and it allows that to happen.
Wow, that's really interesting. I mean, it's really, really interesting stuff. I want to zoom out a little bit, David, because I know when we were talking before this recording a few weeks ago, your own personal story is really interesting as well. I know we had that random Bakersfield connection and then Tennessee connection, but then you also spent a year, I think, in Brazil on some projects. So can you don't have to give a whole life biography per se, but what did some of those varied experiences around the world really teach you about your craft and kind of what you're working on now?
That's a great question. So I started out of school at Georgia Tech as a civil engineer. overseeing master plan communities that were thousands of acres. So very big pod traditional production philosophy models, right? And then I came over to a company called Lend-Lease out of Australia and got into privatized military housing. And that was really unique because the garrison commander is almost like a miniature governor of his military base. And then the city can sometimes have jurisdictions over it. And then the state can have sometimes jurisdictions over it. So it's a very complicated political public sector dynamic. And then, so from there, we went to, I went to Canada for a year, which Toronto, I think, is the melting pot of the world. It's amazing to me how many people come and live and choose Toronto as home. And then I went to Brazil for 2 years, all while living in Nashville. Those 3 years I lived in Nashville, the commute was not the greatest in the world, but what it taught me. And then I went to DC and I launched one of the first public-private partnerships with the EPA with an unbelievable team. They had set it up, and then we kind of oversaw the implementation of the thought. In Brazil, at one point, I had 7 teams across 5 continents working on a hospital in Fortaleza. If you can imagine, we had put together Lend-Lease, Sodexo, and Siemens. So Australia, New York, Lend-Lease, Sodexo in France, and Siemens in Germany. We created a partnership. Not the easiest thing I've ever done. That entity of 3 public entities then joins forces with Fortaleza's government. And we create a partnership. So that is a public-private partnership. And so to sit in the middle of that and to, my late 20s, to navigate those waters and experience what it's like to view the same problem from drastically different viewpoints and paradigms. The Brazilians, the French, the Germans, the Australians, the lawyers out of New York, like it was insane. But you begin to see what a partnership can create if we're pulling in the same direction. And it's what I learned is it's better than what any of us could have done individually. So that life lesson has shaped how we now approach town building. To do 4 TNDs, 4 traditional neighborhood developments, from what I've understand, has not been done before. But it's not us. And so many people have asked, David, what is the secret sauce? And I'm like, I guess if I have to distill it, it's amazing partners. I have, in 3 of my 4, I have an amazing development partner who also serves as a builder oftentimes, who gives us feedback that would have been very difficult to otherwise receive. I have land partners that care so much about the legacy they're leaving. They don't want to see another neighborhood subdivision built on their farmland that they've owned for centuries. And then I have government partners and I have civil contractor partners that put the material in the ground and that nobody ever sees. And we battle it out to get inspections and approvals. And then you have your builders who buy into our vision and say, you know what, we're going to be an ad. We're not going to fight you. We're not going to talk about the other builders. We're all in this together. We're going to pull together. That's how we are doing it. It's based on partnerships. And that's probably the biggest lesson I learned in my pre TND world was how amazing we can become if you can align the partners to all pull in the same direction.
Really, really powerful stuff, and definitely application that can be drawn from your world, David, to our world. I mean, it's so important to have strong partners, have a strong team, and have a shared vision. Knowing that we're nearing our recording time here, David, is there anything else that you'd want to share about your organization, just the vision, anything like that before we adjourn?
In addition to the partnerships, which I thought that was an amazing question that I don't think I've really gone into much in any of the interviews or podcasts that I've been on. I would just encourage people, if they want to know what this looks like, we've started using LinkedIn, and we will be adding a brand new website here pretty soon. We're really excited about that. We're going to be tying in what we do to, and everything we've talked about, to Japanese joinery in a really special way. And then we're going to be getting Instagram going. We want to show people a little bit behind the scenes of all the things that go in. So we're doing 2 posts a week now. It's easy to say, hey, we got the entitlement package. Hey, we started construction. Hey, we've sold our first lot. Hey, here's our first street. I think that's important to see those major milestones. But what I think a lot of people seek to understand is how you get there. And so we have created a strategy and are continuing to evolve that strategy on how to show people behind the scenes, the work, some of the stuff going in the ground that they're going to forget about, but the huge victory and celebrations we had that, we got 3 water quality units in the ground in one day with cranes and crazy coordination and trucks coming in. It's the small things. We have a saying around the office that 1% better every day. And so we beat that drum, and we just, and speaking of Kobe Bryant, that was the mantra he had, 1% better. And that's what we try to do. And so follow us on LinkedIn. I can't wait for our website to get posted. We're going to have a lot more interactive material and just showing individuals that this is possible, and what the outcome is. And I can't wait to get the footage, the real be-real from our projects of families living their best lives and building memories.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, David. Really appreciate it.
Thank you all for having me. This has been great.